Alrighty, here we go again with our third installment of our DayZ scripting event, where Tree will be going through some scripting basics and other ways to make scripts useful to you. Today we'll be mainly focusing on a few simpler things, well, in my opinion, simpler things, but important things that a scripter needs to know when trying to modify the game. And some of those things in this case are recipes. I've seen a couple people in the scripters channel ask about how to make a recipe, and I've also asked people how to do particles, and I've also heard people ask about a main menu and repacking and copyright stuff. So these are some things that we'll kind of go over today. Maybe not the main menu so much because it's one of those big things, but particles and recipe stuff we can definitely go over without too big of an issue. So before we get started though, I'm going to touch quickly on repacking and copyright just because it's something that gets asked pretty often, and having a concise sort of summary of in layman's terms what people can and can't do is important, I think. And so just as a prefix, I'm not a lawyer and nothing I say is legal advice, so take this with a grain of salt, but this is what I sort of learned over the past 5 years being in modding. So when we talk about repacking, people are like, what is repacking and can I do it? And the answer is most of the time, yes, you can repack, and unless somebody's explicitly stated you can't. But the first thing you have to ask yourself is why would you want to repack it? And then first, before even that, we have to define to ourselves what even is repacking. And so when I talk about repacking, I'm talking about going into another mod, whether it be something that you downloaded off of the workshop or something somebody sent you, right? In this case, let's say I want to repack the earplugs mod, right? And so people, in this case, they've even had a text here that says that you can't repack this into a server or mod pack. Use a collection. And so here's a very obvious example of a mod and a modder who basically says, don't repack my stuff. However, that doesn't stop people from going into the add-ons folder, copying this, putting it inside of their P drive, inside of their mod content, and just pasting it into their server mod pack. Re-signing it so it's under their key, right? And then they will upload this to the workshop, right? Well, they'll go to publisher, and then you'll look for your mod over here on the side, and you'll click it, and you'll click this publish button, right? And so the part where it becomes a repack, or the part where it becomes crossing the line, is when you click this publish button. Ideally, when you upload content into the workshop, you are essentially stating right here, the Steam Workshop license, which basically outlines how you can use this stuff. And if you read in here, basically the too long didn't read version of this is, if you're going to be uploading content, you need to make sure that you own it, or you own the rights to upload that content. And so when you take somebody else's content off of the workshop, like I just did, right? I just took the earplugs mod, I resigned it, dumped it into my mod, and then by clicking publish, that would be crossing the line. Now, if I wanted to do local testing on my own personal server, because maybe earplugs mod has a bug on it and I need to be able to unpack it, find the bug, fix it, repack it, test it, and then send the bug fix over to the mod maker, this is fine. This is one of those things where the DSUtils function or feature is for, in my opinion. So like just pulling the mod onto your local, re-signing it so you can actually use it on your local and modify it is not a problem. And this would be a valid use case of repacking, in my opinion. However, publishing that repacked content is where it would cross the line, and you would be breaching the license of the person who made this content, because it's theirs and they said you can't do this, but B, you're breaching Steam's agreement of the content that you create, that you've uploaded is what you've created. And so it's kind of a double whammy here, and double whammy of bad. And so that is why repacking is not a good thing. And so You know, when people say, what do you have as a tool to combat people that repack your mod? Well, you have copyright laws that gives you the right to DMCA. So when you say don't upload my content, they upload it. You can then DMCA that content, which essentially says they're using my content illegally, and therefore they shouldn't be allowed to use it. The terms of service doesn't give you permission to repack. That's another thing that I see people asking a lot of times. They're like, oh, well, Steam says since you upload something on the workshop, it's available and free for everyone. And this is true as a subscriber. And what that means is basically you're allowed to go to the workshop and click this button to subscribe. This is what the terms of service is giving you the ability to do. And so the fact that this mod is available publicly means that you, the mod maker, can't restrict who uses it. So this is another thing. Since I own the content, I can say how my content is used in some cases. I can't restrict who uses my content since it's public. In this case, my Boomlays things in this case would be available to all servers. I could not restrict this content being run on another server. The terms of service in Steam does not allow me to do that. I've uploaded it publicly to their marketplace, to their workshop. So I can't create restrictions for that content. What I can do, however, is tell people that they can't re-upload my content, which is what the no repacks is, which goes into the terms of service of if you're uploading content, you should own it. You shouldn't be uploading content that you don't own because you don't have the license for that content. And this kind of gets into copyright and stuff. So that's kind of the TLDR about repacking and copyright. So kind of easy stuff. Basically, if you upload it to the workshop, it's free and fair for everyone to use. You can't stop somebody from using it. If you don't upload it to the workshop, then, you know, that content is at the discretion of whoever holds the mod in their hand, which then it comes a question of trust of people. So let's move on. Let's get into building a recipe. So in the DayZ scripting channel, I've seen a couple people ask, how do I make a recipe? How do I interact with the base game recipe system, where I take two items, combine it, and I get a result? And so we are going to start from scratch for the sake of this video, and we are going to make our test mod that we had earlier. I'm actually going to delete this because I don't want to upload stuff that's not mine. So in prior videos, we created a folder called test mod. It's in our desktop. It doesn't really matter where it is, but what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to show that I normally would have gone to this modding basics page, which is exposed in the video. And if you can see, it's basically the same, right? I've just copy and pasted it and named it to my folders. And I have a couple other folders where I was doing overrides last session, and these aren't really useful or important, so I'm not going to go over them. I'm just going to show you that they were there. Okay, so let's go ahead and make a recipe. And in this case, we're going to make a really simple recipe where if we take two apples and combine them, we're going to get a pear. All right, nice and easy. But the reason why I picked apples is because they're food, and so they have a couple other things on them like food stages and temperatures and stuff like that, which makes complex recipes a little bit easier to describe. So first question is, well, how do we find the files to modify in vanilla, and then where do we put those files in our own code? Okay, so let's go ahead and find the file first. And normally what I do is I will look for any existing vanilla recipe. Oh, that's funny. Thank you. Sorry. If that happens again, raise your hand so I can see. I didn't notice that there's chat. My recording is going, so I was looking at that. Fortunately, at least for the video that I'm recording, everything that I was talking about will be described, so I'll just go back to the video. All right, so Control Shift F in VS Code, right? I have, so going back to the beginning, you know, I have opened my P drive. I've right clicked it, open with code. And so now I have all my stuff from my P drive in here, and including DayZ files. And so this makes it really easy to search. So I use the hotkey Control Shift F, which will bring up the search. And then I'm gonna look for recipe. Now I know that the thing that I'm looking for is called recipe based because I've been doing this a lot. However, if this is your first time, you know, look for a recipe that you know. So what's a good recipe where you combine two things together and get something? Maybe it's like repair or clean weapon. Yeah, okay. Clean weapon is a good one. Okay, cool. So it only has one or two search results. I come here and I'm exactly where I want to be. I'm in a recipe in the vanilla part of the game where it you have a weapon cleaning kit, you have a weapon or suppressor or mag, and you combine those two things together, and then you'll eventually get something out of it. All right, so this is like the base sort of setup. Okay. So let's go ahead and we're gonna copy and paste this because I want to make my own recipe. So it's easy to use an existing source. So first question is, where do we put our files? Well, I like mirroring vanilla. So if you have the file path up here, you can see it starts in scripts for world, classes, recipes, clean weapon. And in my mod, I have scripts for world, classes. So I'm gonna go ahead and make the folder recipes. And then I'm gonna make another folder called recipes. Oops. And then I'm gonna make a new file called mynewrecipe.c. Okay. I'm gonna click and drag this tab over here so that I get two windows side by side. I'm gonna Control A to select everything. I'm gonna Control C to copy, and then I'm gonna put in my new file that I created, Control V to paste. Alrighty. We'll leave the source up over here on the right side so we know where we came from. And let's just look at this file for a second. All right, and let's actually open up another recipe since I have a bunch of them here. Just so we have a couple examples. Actually. I'm gonna copy that one here and I'm gonna put it below because you can have multiple classes on a file. No big deal. And I'm gonna start with the second one first because that top one is a little advanced. Okay. So starting with this craft fence kit, you can see that the class, it's named uniquely, and we'll get into that later as to why it's needed to be unique, but you can see that we're extending recipe base, which is the base class for all recipes. Okay, and if I were to Control Shift F and search for that specific class, we'll see that it's got a bunch of stuff in it. Basically all of the guts for checking to see if you have the right items, or checking to see if an item can be crafted, and the spawning things, and a bunch of other stuff. So this is where all the base functionality lives, and then each individual child class extends it and then only modifies a few things. And so if I were to like collapse a knit, like there's only 2 functions in here. Whereas in the parent class, you can see it's got a ton of stuff, like 600 lines of things. So the parent class is doing a lot of heavy lifting for us. And so the inheritance, which we covered in the first video, is doing a lot of work for us. So we only have to worry about specific stuff. Okay, so going on, we have a function called init, which is our initializer that sets up the recipe. And so for starters, you can see the name, which is the text shown when craft can happen. So this is like the little prompt window of the tooltip that shows up when you have the 2 items together, and it says, you know, click to hold to do the recipe. Is instant recipe. This is just a toggle, a Boolean toggle to see if there's an animation involved. there's true and false, essentially 1 or 0. And in most cases it's false. In some cases there's an instant recipe. You can play around with the ones and search through vanilla. Animation length. This is the length at which you want the crafting animation to happen. And this is not in seconds. All right. And this is sometimes something that this is something that took me a little bit longer to realize than I'd like to admit. But ideally, the crafting animation itself has a duration of like, I don't know, 2-3 seconds, I think, or 1 second. I don't know. It's some value. However, this number here is a percentage of how long you want that animation to run. So let's say crafting animation normally takes 10 seconds to run. Well, if I say I only wanted the animation length to be 0.5, then we would take 0.5, multiply it by 10, which is basically half. And what is half of 10? 5. And so the animation of this specific recipe would be 5 seconds. And so the circle would spin for 5 seconds until the recipe completed. So that's about it. All right, moving on, we have more conditions about the ingredients. And so now we kind of get into how the recipe manager actually creates a recipe. And so the way you do this is that, or the way the base manager has things set up is that there's an array of ingredients, or a list of ingredients is probably a better way of saying it for new programmers. And it has a list of results. And since a list can be ordered, we have numbered positions. And since with an array, we have this index, we call them indexes. We have the index 0 and 1 since we have 2 items. We have an item in the 0 slot, and then we have an item in the 1 slot. And so, it looks like they've added something new here. That's cool. Index, ingredients, sound category, crafting. Oh, okay, cool. It looks like you can add an ingredient and give it a sound now. That's cool. Okay, well, that must be from the new update. I haven't seen that. Cool. Anyway, going back to what we were talking about earlier. So the way you should read this, okay, is that since there are 2 items in the list, we need a way to like point to one of those items and differentiate it from pointing to another item. And so in this case, we're using the position in their list. And since lists in programming world start in 0, our first item is 0 and our second item is 1. I know that's a little confusing, but that's just the way arrays are. Yeah, we started. And this is recorded, so don't worry. You're not missing anything. And I'll post it immediately after. Okay. So again, the way to read this here is the minimum damage your ingredient can be to pass the recipe for the first item. And you'll notice that if I double click this, it highlights the same thing, but for the second item. And that's because you want to be able to control the damage state of both items that you're checking. And so we're using numbers here, which relate to the damage level. And if I search the code for damage level, I should be able to find us the list. Get health level. In-game constants. Go. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the mic's all working. OBS on my side is all good. But anyway, if we look at, I'm going to click and drag this over. You'll see that we have damage levels, right? Ruined is 4, badly damaged is 3, damaged is 2, worn is 1, and pristine is 0. And so if I wanted this first ingredient to not pass my recipe, if it was damaged or worse. And so I put 2 here because this value right here, the damage state, the level is 2. Whereas pristine would be 0. And if I didn't care about the damage of the second item, I would leave this -1 here to disable the check, as you can see in the comment. There's no negative value for the damage states, and so that's kind of how we have an idea of default values. Okay, and so our first condition item is that our rope can't be in can't be in damaged state or worse. We don't care about our second ingredient. Okay, that's the minimum damage. Oh, sorry, I should have put. I got that flipped back. So you have the option to specify the min and max. And so what I've actually done is I've set the minimum damage, meaning my rope has to be at least damaged. So let's go ahead and say, let's go and change that. That's my bad. I want to say that it needs to be pristine. Okay. And it can't be damaged. So I use 2. So I can only use pristine ropes or worn ropes. Now, for quantity, I can specify the quantity of an item. Ropes don't have a quantity, so I want to -1 that. Same with max. I guess ropes have 1 quantity, but I don't care about that check. That's no big deal. Now, for the second ingredient, wooden stick. Yeah, we don't care about the min damage. The max damage, though, we don't want badly damaged sticks, or we don't want ruined sticks, actually. Okay, so we'll leave that there. Then the quantity is we want at least 2 sticks. Okay, that makes sense. And there's no max quantity. So in this case, I could have a stack of sticks. Or I could just have 2 sticks. And this is one way that I personally use in my recipes to sort of penalize brute forcing. And so very often players will just take full stacks of items and smash them together and take the craft. And I'm okay with that personally, but if you want to inject some type of skill system or specificity to your recipes, then you can do things like this. And then down here in the ingredients section, there's this flag called destroy, and you would set it to true so that if I used 6 items, it would just take the whole stack. But if I used 2 items and had the perfect amount, it would only take those 2, but it would be deleting the whole stack as well. But this is a way to kind of enforce kind of the anti-brute forcing. Okay. So some of these other recipe properties here, we have ingredient, add health, and so sometimes you don't want to delete the items, or sometimes you want to repair the item. You don't necessarily, or sometimes you don't even want to do anything, right? So if you want to add health to an ingredient, you can just make like a positive number, 100. Or if you wanted to remove health, you would make a negative number. So when I do the craft, what should the health of this ingredient be afterwards? Well, if we leave it like this, then we'll decrease the health by 100, and ropes have low health anyway, and they'll just be deleted. So I'm gonna leave it at 0, do nothing. I could also just set the health generally, so we can modify it, add or remove health based on what's currently there, or I can just say change your health to this. And so that's really what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna say let's just change your health to 5. But we can also change the quantity. We can add the quantity. And in this case, we don't want to change the quantity of the rope. I'm just going to leave it at -1. And I'm going to flip this bool for auto destroy. I don't want to destroy the rope. I'm going to damage it really badly. And that means I just drop it on the ground. Okay. We'll do the same stuff for the second ingredient, wooden stick, ammo sharp. And so do we want to add any health to the stick? No. Do we want to set the health? No. Do we want to add quantity? I mean, sure, I can remove 2, but I'm destroying the object, so it doesn't really matter. And so I'm just going to leave that the way it is. All right, moving downwards past the ingredients. We're now in the results section. And so the results section is a little more sexy because while base vanilla only has the functionality for 1 ingredient or 2 ingredients at the moment, you can have as many results as you want. And so in this case, I'm just going to duplicate my fence kit, and this would spawn me like 20 fence kits. And actually, I don't want that, so let's do like a chem light or something. Why is it searching CSV files for me? .cpp.c. There we go. Let's grab a bunch of white chem lights. Okay. And so now, just like the ingredients, I'm able to set the quantity. I can set the health. I can do other more interesting things like inherit the health from my ingredient, or I can inherit the color. And then I can also say, where do you want to place the item? And then does the result place the ingredient in your hands or like on the ground? And so this is just ways to control how the recipe actually works. And so set full quantity. In this case, I want all of my glow sticks to be half full. So we'll keep that at false. And we'll just say that your quantity is 50. Set the quantity of all these chem lights to 50. Set the health to 50. I'm not sure if it's out of 100 or 50. We'll figure it out though once we run it. Inherit health. No. Let's do -1. Inherit color, -1, do nothing. And then where do we want to place the results? If we look at the comment, -2 will spawn the result on the ground. -1 will place anywhere in the player's inventory, and greater than or equals 0 means switch positions with the ingredient number and value. So in this case, it's either the ground as -2, -1 in my inventory. And if I pick 0, it's going to swap the position with my rope. If I were to pick 1, it's going to swap the position with my ingredient, with my wooden stick. In this case, I just wanted to go on the ground. In most cases, it's best to just dump the item on the ground. And that's the safest in most cases. Your results may vary elsewhere. And then result to replace ingredient. Again, -1 means do nothing. A value greater than 0 means this result will transfer the item properties, variables, attachments, etc. from an ingredient value. And so this is kind of like a lambda. And this might actually be new. Or not. But either way, this is one of the things where you can, with like painting weapons, that I think this would be very useful there. And you'd have your gun here or your weapon, and then you would say replace, result replaces ingredient, and you'd use ingredient 1 because that's your weapon. So, okay, so that's basically the init. We've just set up the recipe to take a rope, a wooden stick, and create a bunch of chem lights. All right. Now, the question is, at the moment, we could just use like the default can do stuff and just return true. And in this case, this function is used to restrict what the player can do when they're putting a thing together, like 2 things together. And so for starters, if there's stuff that's not included in these ingredients, then you can add it here. So one conditional check that's not present is liquids or temperature or food state. And so that's an important thing. And you might need to be able to, you might need to do something like check if the temperature of an item is greater than 50°C. All right, you can't do that up here in this init. You'd have to do something along the lines of, well, I guess you could do temperature on item. So if ingredients because they give us the list of the ingredients into our can do. So if the ingredients, and if our first item get temperature is greater than 50. All right, so now our item's greater than 50C will return true. Otherwise, return false. This thing can't actually do stuff. Okay. And then if I were to come up here, there is a function called do. Not required. And this is where you would manipulate the result of the recipe. And so this would be a very advanced aspect of a recipe. In most cases, you don't need to do this unless you're trying to set the state of a thing in your result. And so I've used this in the past to set the cleanliness of a bandage in a craft. You can't do that in this case. Well, I guess you could with result replace ingredient now, but you'd have to do some other stuff. And actually, no. Maybe it would have to already be disinfected. But if you were trying to make a new recipe to disinfect a bandage or something, you would need to come back into the do and basically do something like, we have our results, which is an array, and those results are these things here. And so if I were to do something like for each item base result in results, this is just a for loop, a fancy for loop. Don't be scared away by the syntax. And actually, I'll write the same thing below it. For int I equals 0, I is less than results dot count I plus plus. All right, these are basically the same thing. Although the beauty of for each is that I get an item base or an object out of it, whereas here I'd have to do like a cast, like item base IB. So I know these are all item bases, but I personally prefer casting a cast to check as a sanity check. So this might be extra verbose to some veteran programmers, but in my opinion, it makes me feel safe. And actually, let me go ahead and name it results so that these are named the same. And so I do this just to showcase that they're the same. This is just a difference of syntactic sugar. I use that word a lot, syntactic sugar. It's what I refer to optimize efficiencies in writing the same thing. And so this for loop where I've defined a variable and then I've casted it and then I'm printing it is kind of all abstracted out into this like nice one-liner. They do the same thing. And in fact, you can actually do like, I'm pretty sure you can do int index here to grab the index, but that's again advanced and not really the focus of this specific video. Okay, so in this, let's say I wanted to modify a bandage. This is how I would do it. I would have to take the array of results that the recipe already creates, and then I would have to modify it. Or in some cases of I want to create randomly a result, I could do something else like if do float chance equals math dot random float inclusive. This is a vanilla function. If I control shift F, it's used everywhere in vanilla. Let's find the proto for it so you can see. It's an E in math. Here we go. So basically, this is something that they give us. I can just use random float 0, 1 because it's doing exactly what I want. I want a number between 0 and 1, which essentially is a percentage between 0 and 100. So, right? So if chance is greater than 0.8, right? If it's greater than 80%, or in this case, really it's inverse. So if it's greater than 80%, then that means we have a 20% chance of getting there, because anything greater than 80 is only 81, 82, 83 to 100. So it's 20 things. Let's change this to like half. Okay. So randomly, every time we do this recipe, we want to create a new object. So this is another thing that you can't really do in vanilla recipes by adding some randomness in this, or adding some chaos in this result. It'd be nice. It could be like, hey, I want 20 of these chem lights, but there's a random chance to not spawn one of those 20 at each interval, but you just have to do it here. So then we would do something like get game create object ex, and for the purposes of the video, I'm just gonna gloss over this function, but this is a really useful function that I use all the time to create things. So I'm just gonna copy it from one of my existing functions here. So what this function expects is, you know, a class name. So we are going to duplicate that, copy it out. And instead of a white chem light, we're going to do a yellow one. The position, we have a reference to the player. So I'm just going to spawn it at the player's feet. And then I want to make sure it's set up. I want to make sure there's no lifetime on that object, so that if the player doesn't pick it up, it gets deleted next restart. Same thing with dynamic persistency. If the player doesn't interact with it, it'll just delete itself. Okay. And what we've done here, so as a recap, okay, because we're basically done at this point. As a recap, we took an existing recipe, the craft fence, and actually let's change this to my cool new recipe, because we need a unique name for a class for our recipe. We extend recipe base, which is the base class for all recipes, has a bunch of stuff inside of it that handles things that we don't need to consider or worry about, unless you're getting into advanced stuff. We then change the name of our recipe. We ensure that our recipe is not false. We have the time of our recipe, the time it takes to craft, is half of the animation length, so it's probably very fast. We expect our rope to be pristine up to worn. We expect our sticks to be no more damaged than badly damaged, and we expect to have at least 2 of them. Okay. And then when we put our rope and stick together, I'm not going to add any health. I'm going to set the health of the rope to 5, not adding or removing. I'm going to set it directly to 5. And then I'm going to remove a quantity. You know what? I don't want to remove a quantity. I just want to set the rope to be broken. Okay. And then our wooden stick, we're saying we're not going to add any health. We're not going to set the health. -1 is ignore. And then when we add quantity, we're just going to remove 2 sticks. And so and then I'm also going to destroy the whole stack. And so we'll do 2 tests in game, one with a full stack of sticks and one with only 2 sticks. And you'll see how they'll both work. All right. And then when we put both of those 2 items together, the rope and the stick, we're going to spawn a bunch of chem lights. All of them are going to have 50 quantity, 50 health. They're going to go onto the ground. I'm going to remove this, otherwise we won't be able to craft it. And then inside of our do, anytime we make this recipe, the results are going to be set to clean, and so that just means it's going to be disinfected. And then we have a random chance to make a yellow chem light. Cool. Let's pack this. Let's see what works. See if it even runs. All right, so my test mod is what I need to select. My test mod, that's what the output is. Pack. Okay, cool. We're packed. I have my startup scripts. We created these last time. So let's go ahead and start our workbench. Oh, poop. That's right. I copy and pasted this one. Let's go and get rid of that. Workbench getting mad at me because I have duplicates. If you want to know how to set up Workbench and get everything connected so you can do like remote compiles and stuff, watch the previous video. It's on in the channel. But I'm doing this so I can quickly change the recipe. Oh, I almost forgot. There's one thing that we forgot to do, okay? And this is a very common first modder error, a new modder error. And we almost did it ourselves. We created this recipe, right? I feel really good about it. I've done a lot of work, and then I was about to boot the game up, and we wouldn't have been able to do the recipe. And people would have been like, why? The answer is we didn't register it, right? In order to actually use this recipe that we've created, we need to register the recipe. So how do we register the recipe? Well, I'm gonna go ahead and go find the vanilla one that we copied from. And since classes are unique names, which is great, I can search on the class name and I find two results. First one is the file that I've opened, and the other one is a big list of recipes that are registered. So here you can see all of the existing recipes that vanilla will have registered, and then any modder is going to have an exact same setup to do this. All right, so we are going to register this recipe. Did this get moved? I think this might have gotten some cleanup here. Hold on, sorry for the live debugging, but this feels like it was just fixed. Okay, cool. Okay, so this kind of took me off guard a little bit, but originally this register recipes function used to be in plugin recipes manager, because I mean, if you look at all my old code, that's where I have it. And this is good because it was a source of contention. Awesome. So what I'm going to do here is I need to also override and mod this function, okay? So that I can add my recipes to the game. Now, we talked about inheritance in the first session. We talked about super in the second session, and those are going to be very important in what we're about to do here. So make sure you're paying attention, all right? So first question is, where do I put this file that I'm adding? Well, I'm going to look up here in the file path and I'm going to copy it. So I'm going to scripts for world, classes, recipes. Then I want to make a new file called modded _ plugin recipes manager base. Okay, and the name is just the name of the vanilla file. I'm gonna do that to make sure to allow my brain some reprieve when I need to search where I got this from. Okay, so I'll remove the inheritance. We don't need that, but mod it in front of class so that we tell the compiler we're overriding this class and adding new functionality. I'm gonna copy this register recipes, All right, we're overriding this function. So I'm gonna use that special keyword. All right, now, very common mistake for a new modder is to just do this. Oh, I'll just register my recipe. No big deal. Copy my class, put it here, I'm done, right? That's it. No, if you do this, you'll break every other recipe the game loads, all right? And the reason why is because you haven't called super. We haven't called the existing code that is in the game or for all of the mods that also runs these recipes or this code. And so, again, going back to inheritance on the first video, since I am overriding or modding this base class, I'm essentially inheriting from it. And then I need to also tell the game that when you run my code, that I'm overriding your code, also run your code as well. The super basically says do what you were going to do and then do my stuff. So very important right here is this like highlighted super.register recipes. If you don't do this, you'll be able to do your recipe, but you won't be able to do any other recipe and people will complain. Okay, now that we got that, we should have everything, and I'm going to go ahead and close that and reopen Workbench. We shouldn't have a compiler anymore. Quick break for a drink. All right, looks like we're good. Pop open the script editor. Classes, recipes, BCDEFG. Recipes, and then, so this is one of the cases where you would want to prefix your stuff with something, or because now I have to like look for it. What did I name it again? My new recipe. So ABCDEFG LMNOP. Here we go. All right. F7 compile. Does my stuff work? Oh, I'm missing a at the end. Cool. File it, and then we'll run the game. Start the server. Start the client. Oh, do I need to give myself VPP and stuff? Yeah, I'll need to. All right, hold on. Uh-oh. Did I just crash? Why? Oh, did I revert my... I think I did. Okay, I might need to fix my mission script, but it shouldn't be hard. First, I will... To my diag mode, I need to add VPP tools so that I can actually give myself stuff. Because you'll need to, in order to spawn recipes and things like that, right? Okay, so VPP admin tools, it's going to require CF, I know that. So let's go ahead and copy that. Put that in my startup script. Okay, and then my UPP. No, the configuration isn't here. And then usually I like vanilla map. Don't necessarily need it, but it's useful for when you're trying to teleport around. Okay, and so since that's that, I'll need to also copy this for client. Okay, and then I need to change my mission inside of Cherno. Oh, I called a Boogaloo. Did I change it from Boogaloo Chorno? Is that the profile I'm using? Server underscore diag. It's not. Okay. Live debugging. Let's do Boogaloo Chorno. See if I fix that. Oh, that's funny. Okay, so with the new with the new diag mode and the new 1.27 patch, it's getting really mad that there are errors. And so this is a very common problem when running diag mode. How do you ignore these errors? Because diag mode is meant to run like a diagnostic version of the game, and some of these mods just don't work in that mode. So let's go ahead and server scripts. That's what I'm looking for. And then something like this. And so I'm just gonna go ahead and copy this. New errors are warnings equals 1. Like that's a. If you don't have this, your diag mode basically isn't gonna work. Let's leave that open. Let's see, do you grab the mission? No world name with Chorno. Oh, duh. Okay, so we can't do that. I can't be silly. I'm sorry. Go back to that. Start the server. Again, we went over all this stuff in the video last week, so I'm not really describing what I've done here. I'm just blasting through it. Looks like we're good. Reading the mission. Nope, maybe not. Huh. Let's see what's up. I'm wondering if I reverted the fix that I did last week, because my commits were yelling at me. Let's see. It's in the init. See, I know that. Oh no, this should work. Oh, it looks like I commented it out though. All right, well, let's try it. Oh, I did, didn't I? Yeah, there we go. Okay. I'm glad I didn't delete it. I just commented it out. Cool. All right, this should work. Live debugging. And again, just for the video's sake, the this code here doesn't work. What's going on here? Probably should have checked to see what's going on before, because the update might have changed something. What is the profile I'm using? DayZ server test. That should work. It's strange. This was working last week and I haven't touched it. Gotta love it. And the mission is breaking for some reason. Players, file patching, verify signatures, force sim build, shard ID. Oh, maybe I need to wipe. Let's go ahead and just let's get rid of it. Easy. All right. Bring this over. Okay. Delete. Boom. Maybe it's because I tried to add CF without wiping. No? Wow. All right. No error or anything. Well, that puts a hamper on things, that's for sure. There's no profile being created for it, so I can't debug what's going on. So normally what I would expect is like, so up here I've named this profile in my server start, and I would expect there to be a folder in here called DayZ server test. But I don't have it. All the keys are here. All the files are here. Bring up front. I doubt this is a thing, but let's try. Oh, wait. Am I being an idiot? I think I am. If I were to compare these two files, are they the same? Yeah, okay, never mind. All right, well, kind of BS. I guess we won't use diag mode. I mean, I'll just we'll just load this mod into my normal workflow. Shouldn't be too big of a deal. Quick pivot. Here. Sorry for this, everyone. Modding. Server scripts. That's what I want. And let's go ahead and we'll tag this on the edge of my diag servers here. I know these work, or at least they did. So I'll just put e:/mods, my test mod. I'm gonna add this to the end. No waste of time. Just goes to show, even veterans just run into silly issues like this all the time. Like last week, that script worked, you know? But we had an update between then. Should have tested. Oh, wow. Okay. None of my stuff's working. The heck? That's not good. Or at least I have a crash log. Why'd this break? Oh. It's really mad at my mod. What? Oh, that's funny. Okay, is it because I had this literally in the wrong folder? I built it with the wrong thing. Whatever. Let's see if that's the case. Alright. That'd be funny. It'd be really funny. I've been playing around with new ways to pack the game files, so that's what I get. There we go. That might be a little better. Let's see if that helps. No? Alright, well, I might have to cut this a little short. I can't run any of my stuff. I gotta figure out what's broken. That is great. I guess we can pivot. What I'm trying to do at the moment is try to isolate like what's actually broken. I jump into the RPT file because it's got a lot of good information about like when the game loads, and you can see there's a bunch of faff in here for fluff. A lot of fix me's. You know, ideally these things should be fixed. We should never see any fix me in the game. This is vanilla saying, hey, you need to fix something. But really, I just scroll down to the bottom to see what's the last thing that happened. So it's getting mad. For some reason, it's getting mad at my my mod. Add result. But add results right here, so I don't see why it's getting mad. Shouldn't need any required add-ons. See, I'm wondering if... No. So, like, if I look at the register recipe, vanilla put them in here, but all of my other modded stuff is in plugin recipes manager. I wonder if that's causing issues. Shouldn't. I have create all recipes. Strange. This is a really strange error. I'm not expecting something like this. My recipe itself should be fine. Let's go ahead and strip out. All of that. Let's just VPP. Maybe there's something else conflicting it. This is really strange. I haven't done anything, in my opinion, that's kind of outlandish or outside the box. No world named Tombstone. Oh. Shoot. Also, the benefits of making scripts. I mean, just being able to double click a file is useful. right, where are you gonna break this time? I wonder if I have to update my Macaros. I dread updating. Sorry. Let me do that real quick. I would laugh if that's the case. Okay. How did that look? Did it give me what I wanted? Mods, my test mod, add-ons. There you go. That looks a little better. I'm wondering. Fingers crossed. If this doesn't work, we'll cut it short. I need to figure out why this is broken before I can do anything else. Crazy how a simple recipe just turns into something ridiculous. Yeah. I don't get it. Should be doing that. For default, nothing useful there. All right, well, back here. Yeah, same thing. All right, well, sorry I have to cut it short, but I got to figure out why this isn't running anything at the moment. So I have a hunch it's this, but I'll investigate later. And thanks for watching. I appreciate it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them now. I can take some time to do that, but I can't like demonstrate anything apparently in code. Just what this whole thing is about. At least for the video's sake, we did review a lot of the recipe-based stuff, and if we, you can do a lot with recipes. I'll show you just a couple examples of what I've done. I mean, I've made hundreds of recipes. It's like things like drug recipes for my cocaine, right? Make a bag, a couple things for quantity, fabric, you make starter stuff. Like when I was talking about the can do, here's like a way to check to see if a specific food piece is dried. So in this case, I wanted them to dry the leaves before they crushed them up. And then now that they have that plant material, I want to restrict more stuff. So things like, is the liquid type that they're adding to this container gasoline, and a more complex function call of, is the kit with attached items ready to craft? And then using the same approach with complex functions, is a puzzle solved? So, are the correct attachments in the correct quantities on the correct slots? True or false type thing. And then here's kind of an example of creating an item like I showed earlier. And so I, create the item, insert it into the results list, and let the vanilla stuff do its work. And then we have cutting up cocaine or cutting up the bricks into specific things. There was the notion of color, inheriting color. I didn't really talk too much about that, but I can showcase it a little bit here. Yeah, okay. So you'll notice that in the ingredient, we're pointing to the color base of an item. And if I were to look at this in the config, you'd notice that there's one big color base and then like smaller individual items that have a color in the name, like armbands are a good example. Armband white, armband yellow, armband green, armband blue, and then there's armband underscore color base. Okay, so the color base is like a category or a group for all armbands underneath it that have the same prefix. That's important. And so the reason why that's important is because down here in the recipe manager, they've given us the ability to take the color of an item and apply it to another item. So what does this mean? Well, this means like things like spray cans. If I have red, green, blue spray cans, and I wanted to take a red spray can onto a white armband, or onto any armband, actually, I could then take the red color from the spray can and put it onto the end of the result. And so you'll notice here that this item has a trailing underscore. That's because it's expecting some color here at the end. And the reason why is because down here in the results inherit color property, I have it set to 0. So basically I want it to inherit from the first item in the list. And so this is a really clever way of being able to change an item into another item based on some item in my hand. And so if we were to look in vanilla for examples of this, you can see they replaced this somewhat with the paint system. And so if you're looking for a fun project to do or to learn scripting, it would be to take, so in this case, the AK-74 and a spray can, and maybe add another color. Like that's a very low-hanging fruit one, but it touches a couple systems in the game where you would have to learn how things are done. So that's a little bit about the color inheriting and how I learn how to do complex recipes by making a single recipe that handles many options. Otherwise, you have to make a recipe for each thing, and that can get cumbersome. Okay, that's it for me. I'll figure out why my stuff isn't working, and we'll come back with more information about getting this recipe working and showing it in game and stuff. So I hope you all enjoyed. Hope you learned something. I'll go ahead and publish this recording here in a little bit, and have a great day. Thank you.